All right, next topic. I want to talk about something that I had previously said I wasn't going to talk about, but I want to talk about this in such a way that makes sense and is getting back down to like the core essence of what we need to talk about with this, and that topic is politics. Now, I don't want to talk about politics in terms of any particular issue or any particular side of an issue. I don't want to provide support for anything along those lines. What I want to talk about is how we make political decisions based on our values. And I want to talk about how do we actually go about solving problems and working together to solve those problems. Okay? So, getting into it, there are kind of four main values that I see as being important to the Christian faith. There's probably others, but four big ones that I think really play a role in terms of the kinds of decisions that we make politically. Okay, the first two are pretty easy. They're the two greatest commandments according to Jesus: love God, love others. Okay, now I want to go more in depth into what this looks like in the future, in a future video. But basically, the idea behind loving God is trusting Him. We put our faith in Him, right? The Bible talks a lot about putting faith in God, whether it's in Him for salvation or that's trusting Him to meet our needs, okay? So the basic idea of loving God is trusting Him. When it comes to loving other people, it's about meeting people's needs, right? You see this when Jesus talks about whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. In that section, he talks about, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you took care of me. When I was in prison, you visited me. That's basically meeting people's needs. You meet their needs for food, for water, for shelter, for clothing, for belongingness, visiting people, right? Meeting people where they're at and giving them that sense of intimacy and belongingness. That's a big need. If you need a reference point on that, you can look up Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a good, quick, and dirty way of seeing, okay, these are the various needs that we have. And it's important to note that on that hierarchy, at the very bottom, those are the most immediate needs that we need to have met, but all of the needs on that hierarchy are needs. It's just that you got to meet the ones at the bottom first, and then the next one's up, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, loving God is about trusting Him. Loving others is about meeting their needs. Okay? The other two values that I see in the Bible are life and choice. Okay? In the book of John, Jesus talks about saying, the thief, Satan, has come to steal, kill, and destroy. The enemy has come to do that. Okay? And he says, I have come to give them life and give it to the full. Right? So life, and that's just one little verse. Through many parts of the Bible, it talks about how life is so important to our faith. Okay? The other one, choice, is also there. For instance, the Bible talks about it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. When you look at Genesis chapter 3 and how Adam and Eve chose poorly by eating from the fruit, you might ask, well, why would God put that kind of a tree in there and put them at risk? If He didn't put that tree in the garden, if He did not give us that choice, then we couldn't truly experience His love and give love to Him, because we wouldn't have the choice. We wouldn't have the liberty to do so. So clearly choice has a big role, choosing to follow Him, choosing to trust Him, choosing to give love to other people, as opposed to, oh, this is just something that we have to do. This is something we're required to do. Which, since we do have choice, the idea of feeling like we are required to do something is something that we often resist. And I find this a lot when I talk with people, whether that's people in my practice or people in my personal life. Like, we will resist feeling like we are required to do something. Or, conversely, we will do it in a way where it's kind of, we do it in a begrudging kind of a way. So choice is very important for all of this, okay? So we have trusting God, we have meeting other people's needs, we have respecting life, and we have respecting choice, okay? Now, life and choice, because I want to get into how we can try to solve problems together and work together better rather than being so polarized. Let's take an example issue. Okay, and I'm going to choose abortion would be an example of an issue along these lines. Okay, I know this is a bit of a hot button topic, but I want to work on how we can see each other in the midst of this issue. Now, at least in the United States, we usually have this polarized in the sense that you're either pro-life or pro-choice. Pro-life usually being associated with you are anti-abortion, pro-choice meaning you are more pro-abortion. Okay, so you would think that, okay, with pro-life it's okay, they're respecting life and not choice, and with pro-choice it's respecting choice but not life. We need to see some of the other values that are at work in here. For instance, on the pro-life side, one of the arguments that a lot of people bring up on the pro-life side, and again, I'm not proposing, expressing support for either side here, but on the pro-life side, you will see things like, well, what about the baby's choice? What about the child's choice? Their choice to want to be able to live and have a life and those kinds of things, right? So choice still kind of plays a factor in what people talk about on the pro-life, on the anti-abortion side. Similarly, on the pro-choice side, we see people like saying like, well, what about the life of the mother? What about if her health is at risk? What if this pregnancy was forced on her? What about the life that she needs to be able to live? So respecting life on this side is also important. And we need to see that, hey, there are actually some similar values here. It's just that depending on which side you're on, you might lean more towards life or more towards choice, but that doesn't mean that you don't respect the other one as well. But because of the polarizing nature of the political environment that we're in now, what we find is that if you disagree even just like a little bit, you might as well consider it as being total disagreement. And I think that's a big mistake that we're making. And I think what we instead need to do is see how we are actually pretty similar on a lot of these subjects, whether that's abortion or gun rights or education or healthcare or any number of different things. We need to look for the commonalities because it affects all of us. And we need to figure out a way to find solutions other than just some of these binary options in order to unite together to actually solve the problem. And you see this on lower levels too, when people are in disagreement. If they don't work together, like in our marriages or in our friendships or whatever, if we don't work together on any number of different issues, what ends up happening is we separate further from each other and we become more isolated. And it actually ends up hurting all of us. So, in summation, I think we need to really look at how we can work together, and we need to do that by looking at what are our common values, what are our core values in this, and rely on those to help us with figuring out what political decisions we can make and need to make, but also recognizing and respecting that other people who probably have similar values are also making those decisions. I know it's a bit more complicated than that, but if we don't look for those commonalities, if we don't look to empathize with each other, we all lose. So, thank you for listening. My prayer is that we can go forward and work to listen to each other more. I wish you the best, and God bless.